This is now the smaller version of my home sewing machine here. This is my little inexpensive Singer, a Steam 2. Again, this might look really similar to what you have at home, and this will work just fine. So as you can kind of see here, it has the ability to change the stitch length. So that's really, really important to making a regular straight stitch. And then it also has all of these different options down here. So you can kind of, click around from decorative to, if I go over here, functional, to more functional, to my straight line, and then it even has a buttonhole option. So if I want to make my buttons and holes. So with this machine, you can do anything for the class. So again, 60 or 70 bucks, pretty cheap, really lightweight, so really portable, so really easy to kind of take. And it essentially has all the same parts as the Bernina. So I'm going to show you how to thread this one really quickly. Similar components. This one's kind of nice because it even shows you all the different steps, but you're gonna go ahead and take the spool pin, and that just holds the thread. So that's just a little guide for the thread. You're gonna go ahead and put your spool on the spool pin, which sits sideways, and you're gonna go ahead and put that little guide back there, little protection. And you're gonna start with the first thread guide. So you can see that there's a little hook on the top of the machine here. I'm gonna wrap around that hook. That's number one. Then there's a second hook here, or a second guide here, that I wanna wrap around. So you can kind of see it here that there's another guide that comes across. So I'm just gonna come easily down around that little hook. And it draws me down through this hook here. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little caught up on this little cut piece of spool. So that might happen to you. So what just happened while I was trying to thread it, you'll see, if I go ahead and pull this kind of tight, that sometimes if you have a cut where the thread was inserted, that might get you kind of caught up while you're trying to thread your machine. If that's the case, you can take a little blade and just cut this, or maybe take your scissors, not your sewing scissors, but maybe like a pair of kitchen scissors or working scissors, and just cut off that little piece of plastic that's kind of blocking you. That way you have an easier time when you're threading, and it won't get snagged while you're sewing. So now that it's kind of out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and go down through my next guide, which is this hook. So I'm going down through this little canal, and I'm going to wrap around like it tells me, number 4. And then you can see that I come up to my take-up lever. Just like on the Bernina, you just have to swipe right to left, and it automatically falls inside. So it just naturally does it for you, which is really nice. Once you go through the take-up lever, then you're going to work down towards the machine. So these ones have built in this automatic threader, which you can totally use. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way down, number 6. And before I get to threading the needle, there is one small hook above the needle here. This is a little bit different than the Bernina because it goes on the right side. So I just have to go behind from the right. Let's see if I can get that with my other hand. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. And there we go, behind the hook. And then I don't know if you can see it or not, but here I have the automatic needle threader, if you want to use that to thread your needle. Otherwise, you can use just the thread. And you're gonna go, just like on the Bernina, a little hard to see, but you're gonna go front to back again with threading this needle eye, okay? So front to back. It's easy to, if you go ahead and put the presser foot down and kind of thread through the eye there. Okay, so really, really simple, really easy. This has a bobbin compartment similar to the Bernina where it kind of opens up, so the little slide door is here. Boom. The bobbin's already in. Now, one thing that I will say, one thing that I haven't shown you yet is how to take your bobbin out. So right now, I have my bobbin encased in there already. I want to take it out of the machine. So there is a little door. There's a little hatch on the door there. So I'm going to, as you see, once I open it, it kind of swivels. So I'm going to open that little door, and I'm going to slide my bobbin encase out of the machine. Okay? Again, this one looks really, really similar to the Bernina, and it is placed the same way. It's inserted the same way. The bobbin thread is drawn up the same way, but this case and this bobbin are specific for this machine. So you can see that this one is a plastic bobbin. So again, you don't want to kind of just interchange your bobbins and cases. The nice thing about this machine too is that there is an instruction on how to wind that bobbin or how to properly insert it into the case. So if you have any questions, your machine may have something similar. So again, it's almost always here where it's over and away from you, but just make sure that you're doing it correct according to your machine. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about this mat right here. And mine has been used for years and years, so mine's a little messed up, to say the least. This is called a rotary mat. It's called a rotary mat, and I have also a rotary board and a rotary cutter. So if you're a quilter, you may have one of these already. I'm not a big quilter, but I use it all the time for all of my samples. So you'll see it's a rotary mat. It's a 22-inch by 16. It's fairly large. I have a really small rotary cutter here. They come in bigger sizes. I kind of like the smaller ones because I can kind of change the blade out sooner rather than later. And I just kind of like the way that these ones work. The mat that I have is a rotary ruler, and it's called a lipped edge. So there's a lip on it, which means that on the side of the ruler here, it has a piece that kind of sticks out, so it's lip, and then it hits up against the side of your mat. So as you're cutting, it keeps you kind of straight on your cutting lines. This is really, really, really helpful to use when you're cutting out your samples. So up here I have kind of just a plethora of the different types of fabrics you're going to need for your samples. For your first set, you're going to need 6x6s, which are here. Got a couple of those. I've got some directional stitching, like skirt shapes. You're going to need lots of 3x6s. So you're just going to need a lot of rectangles for the samples for the class. And so if you invest in this rotary cutter, it makes it really easy. It's definitely not a necessity, but it will really, really help you. Using this rotary cutter, you can take your fabric really easily. You can lay it on the mat, line up your selvage edge, and remember the selvage edge is that bit of fabric that's finished. This one says Joanne on it, so this one's labeled, makes it easier to tell what it is. And you can take that selvage edge and you can run it up against the edge of your mat, up against one of the lines, the measurement lines there. And then you can really, really easily take your ruler, lay it on top of your mat, and then use your blade to run along those measurements, trimming off any of the excess and getting really, really clean, perfect size cuts for your samples. So again, this is not a necessary tool, but it's just a suggestion. So I'll put a link to the rotary mat, the ruler, and the blade that we use on campus. And that way, if you want to make it a little bit easier to cut your samples, you have that option.